If you've only seen the Marvel movies, you'll be surprised to hear that Professor X has a sister, Cassandra Nova. But you'll be way more shocked to learn how twisted and messed up her entire story is. The Deadpool and Wolverine villain has a lot of history you're going to want to know about, and some of it is pretty hard to believe. After the release of the first X-Men movie in 2000, Marvel Comics decided to re-energize the team in the comics. The X-Men book became New X-Men, and the team ditched its colorful superhero costumes in favor of movie-like black leather.
What would you prefer? Yellow spandex?
The task of kickstarting the New X-Men comic was handed to Grant Morrison and Frank Quitely, a pair of comics creators from Scotland who'd gained acclaim on titles including Doom Patrol and The Authority. Some fans at the time criticized the X-Men title's shift in tone, but the series was quickly a major hit. One of the biggest reasons why was Cassandra Nova, the team's latest arch-nemesis, and another in a long line of villains tied to the team's founder, Professor Charles Xavier. Cassandra debuted in Morrison and Quitely's first story arc, E is for Extinction. Quitely's art on the series was off and on, but New X-Men was just one part of a long collaboration between him and Morrison. They might best be known today for All-Star Superman, a series that reshapes the Man of Steel's mythos and proves so enduring that it's reportedly the inspiration for director James Gunn's Superman. Most heroes and villains are granted their abilities in some inciting incident. Mutants are born with their powers, but Cassandra is something altogether unique. Known by the Shi'ar as a Mamudrai, Cassandra is a non-corporeal entity whose birth occurred not in a physical realm, but in the astral plane. According to Shi'ar legend, Mamudrai are astral twins of a physical being, but they almost never enter the physical world. Cassandra is the astral twin of Professor Charles Xavier, and she was drawn to his physical presence in the womb by his incredible psychic powers. But as she awoke as a fetus, Charles' emerging abilities lashed out and killed her, or so it would seem. Surviving as a clump of cells, Cassandra was able to fashion herself a body out of Charles's DNA, though it would take decades for her to emerge a fully formed human being. When she does, however, she goes looking for revenge against her dear old brother Charles, now leader of the X-Men. A hallmark of villainy is a huge army of henchmen at their disposal. For Cassandra Nova, finding an army didn't prove that difficult. Once she emerges with a human host body, one that resembles a female version of Professor Xavier thanks to the use of his DNA, she too needs help to carry out her nefarious plans, and she finds it in the form of Master Mold and the Sentinels. Designed and created to stamp out mutant life, the Sentinels were created by Dr. Bolivar Trask.
You'll need a new weapon for this war. I call them Sentinels.
Master Mold, as the name implies, makes Sentinels. The Sentinels debuted in a 1965 issue of X-Men and went on to become some of the team's most persistent adversaries. They return in New X-Men thanks to Cassandra, who convinces Trask's nephew, Donald Trask III, to help reactivate Master Mold. When he does though, she kills him and absorbs his DNA, taking command of the Master Mold, building a lethal army of wild Sentinels that are capable of self-replicating. Despite her deeply personal reasons for wanting revenge on her twin brother Charles Xavier, Cassandra Nova wants more than just that. It's her near death at his hands in the womb that motivated her to seek out a new body and find justice. But her mission is broader than simple revenge. She's also after the extermination of all mutants everywhere. And in her very first appearance, she nearly succeeds. Using her army of wild Sentinels, Cassandra Nova leads a devastating attack on the island of Genosha. First appearing in Uncanny X-Men issue 235, Genosha becomes a mutant sanctuary, an island nation ruled by Magneto that allows mutants a place to live in peace and prosperity. When attacked by Cassandra though, nearly the entire mutant population of the island is wiped out, with over 16 million lives taken in what remains one of the largest mutant genocides in Marvel history. Following the attack, world governments isolate Genosha. Hoping to save the dream of Genosha as a mutant paradise, Professor X attempts to rebuild the island with the help of the few survivors who manage to escape alive. Born on the astral plane, Cassandra Nova isn't your ordinary supervillain. Her existence transcends physical limitations. She can exist with or without a body. Yet her battle with Professor X and the X-Men after her first appearance leaves her in need of a host, and over the years she's been shown hopping from physical form to physical form. Though she initially builds herself a body using the genetic material of her twin brother Charles, Cassandra is also capable of stealing other people's identities. She does just that when she kills Donald Trask III and takes X-Force's DNA in her quest to build a Sentinel army. Since then, she has done it quite a few more times, taking over the likes of Forge, as well as influencing Emma Frost, the White Queen. At one point, she even steals Xavier's body. Of course, even Cassandra has limits on her powers. Kitty Pryde once resists Cassandra's attempts to possess her body, and after being tricked out of Professor X, her own body is kept sealed away in a metal box for a time.
I feel a great swell of pity for the poor soul who comes to that school looking for trouble.
Cassandra Nova at one point uses the mutant Forge to aid her mission. Taking control of his mind, Cassandra uses Forge's expertise in technology to develop a deadly new breed of microscopic robots, merging nanite and Sentinel technology to create what would become known as Sentinites. These tiny robots are small enough to invade the nervous system and brain of a living host and influence its actions in much the same way that Cassandra herself can. Once inside a person's brain and body, the Sentinites give their hosts the ability to detect the mutant gene in others. Once a mutant is identified, the Sentinites take control of the person entirely, forcing them to seek out and kill mutants around them. With the Sentinites, Cassandra takes control of countless people, including Storm. She plans to release the Sentinites across the globe, but her plans are stopped by the combined might of the Avengers and the X-Men. To defeat Cassandra Nova's plans to use Sentinites to destroy all mutants, it takes not just the X-Men and Avengers, but a reprogrammed Sentinite itself. Jean Grey plants this specially programmed Sentinite into Cassandra's mind and is designed to force her to feel empathy. Overwhelmed with feelings of sorrow for all the pain she'd inflicted, Cassandra surrenders to the heroes, leaving Jean Grey in charge of her rehabilitation. Grey reasonably believes that Cassandra will be forever changed. It's possible that with Grey's guidance, Cassandra could have become a powerful new ally to the X-Men. That didn't happen though. In some ways, that new emphatic awareness makes her even more deranged, though she claims she has no more ill will toward mutants as she once did. She does, however, declare that she still hopes to commit even more horrific crimes. It's even suggested that her newfound empathy allows her to gain new pleasure in torture and pain. But it does open the door for her to join an X-Men team for a while.
We make a great team.
We're not a team.
Many supervillains have banded together to form their own teams, like the Sinister Six, the Masters of Evil, or the Legion of Doom. While Cassandra never did join the ranks of Magneto's Brotherhood of Evil Mutants, she linked up with a different team, the Marauders. This mutant squad made its first appearance in 1986, with a lineup of lesser villains like Arclight, Harpoon, and Malice. Years later, the team's roster was openly led by Mr. Sinister, and included Sabretooth, Omega Red, and Polaris. A new version of the team received its own series in 2019, this time assembled by Kate Pryde, formerly Kitty, on the mutant nation of Krakoa. Together with a renegade crew including Iceman, Red Bishop, Pyro, and Storm, the Marauders seek to free imprisoned mutants around the world and give them sanctuary on the Living Island. As part of one critical mission, Cassandra is brought into the fold to help rescue a group of mutants, but that's not the only reason. Since her first appearance in New X-Men in 2001, Cassandra Nova has been one of the most compelling villains in the Mutant Rogues gallery. But she only shows up sparingly. Her last appearance was in 2023's The Marauders, Volume 2, Issue 10, when she was part of the group of mutant raiders. In that issue, it's finally revealed that her recruitment into the group by Kate Pryde and Emma Frost was a plot to finally defeat her. After traveling through time and arriving billions of years in the past, the Marauders help rescue a society of mutants with Cassandra's help. But after the mission is complete, the team initiates its plan, which had been psychically stored in the mind of the mutant known as Somnus, whose mind Cassandra could not read. That plan sees Cassandra betrayed, as the Marauders return to the present while she is left trapped in the ancient past. It remains to be seen when or if she'll return again, as far as the comics are concerned. The rehabilitation of Cassandra Nova may have gone disastrously wrong, but believe it or not, there was a time when Marvel considered legitimately turning her from a villain into a hero. In New X-Men issue 125, Jean Grey rips Cassandra out of Professor X's body. In the next issue, she is tricked into defeat by a complex scheme of Emma Frost. Carrying what appears to be Cassandra's body, Emma coaxes Cassandra to return to her physical form. But the body is actually a synthetic shapeshifter with a brain that's programmed to learn, effectively starting a process of rewriting Cassandra's brain, evil schemes and all. And less than a year later, we meet a new mutant student named Ernst, who appears to be a little girl with the face of a an old woman. Before Grant Morrison left the title for good, he showed a flash forward where Cassandra Nova is leading the X-Men in place of Xavier. In that issue, she mentions that she once was called Ernst. Nevertheless, the next story from new writer Chuck Austen flipped the script, showing Cassandra still imprisoned, and the character went on to menace the X-Men once again in future appearances. While no reason has ever surfaced for why the story was retconned away, original writer Grant Morrison confirmed in 2017 that Ernst was indeed supposed to be a rehabilitated Cassandra Nova.
There's been a change of plan.
Cassandra Nova's mutant status has long been a hot topic of discussion. For many, a mutant is any person who is born with extraordinary abilities, and Cassandra certainly qualifies considering her incredible psychic powers. But by stricter definition, a mutant has to have the so-called X gene. Cassandra may be an astral twin of Charles Xavier. She has no real physical form of her own, relying on host bodies and genetic copies to live in the physical world, so she has no genetic code. For some, the distinction is meaningless. If the host body she is possessing is a mutant, then for all intents and purposes, she is a mutant, and her ability to move from body to body and possess other minds certainly qualifies as a kind of power that signifies her as a mutant too. Still, others believe strongly that Cassandra isn't a mutant at all, and as a Mamudrai, she's more akin to a cosmic entity like the Phoenix Force. The debate actually spilled from the real world into the pages of the comics when Cassandra was brought to Krakoa. There it was decided officially that because she came into the world in a mutant body, a genetic copy of Charles Xavier, she is a mutant. It's hard to say for sure which Marvel mutant is the most powerful. Arguments can be made for Dark Phoenix, Magneto, Scarlet Witch, Apocalypse, and Onslaught, but Cassandra Nova might just be more powerful than all of them. Cassandra's ability to possess human host bodies and jump between them has made her nearly impossible to stop, catch, or kill. Meanwhile, her psychic powers to influence others are as strong as any mutant we've ever seen, Xavier and Jean Grey included. Not only can she cloak herself with mental blocks and control matter through telekinesis, but she can also wipe the minds of others, partially or entirely. She can even alter her own host body's physical characteristics to phase through solid matter. But it's not just mutant powers that Cassandra possesses. Much like Doctor Strange, she also has the ability to travel the astral plane. Like other psychic mutants, however, she does have at least one major weakness, as it has been shown that Magneto's helmet is able to block most of her powers. Nevertheless, Cassandra's power set has ensured that she's among the most dangerous X-Men villains and the most resilient. Deadpool changed the face of comic book movies in 2016, proving that an R-rated superhero romp could be a massive blockbuster. Its second sequel is also going to be shaking things up, as Deadpool and Wolverine seems likely to reshape the Marvel Cinematic Universe. You can expect a multiverse-spanning story and the live-action debut of Cassandra Nova, played by English actor Emma Corrin.
Boys are so silly.
Rumors are already swirling that the threequel will have major consequences, and Cassandra is likely to play a role in that. Considering her incredible abilities to control the minds of others, some are speculating that she could be manipulating the biggest events in the MCU. A time-traveling, timeline-jumping Deadpool might just be looking to stop Cassandra's mission with the help of the Time Variance Authority, possibly altering the MCU's history and future forever. At the very least, she'll be making plenty of problems for the Merc with the Mouth and his clawed companion.